spend the first day, just about the whole first day, driving every access road around this lake, looking at the terrain, the watercolor, the structural situation, the type of reservoir, whether it's a natural lake, it's a highland reservoir, a rolling reservoir, or a flatlander. This will give me an idea about what type, if I can find out and look at it, which I can do, whether it's a flatlander, a lowlander, or whatnot. It could be that part of it is a flatlander, and part of it is a highlander, and part of it is even lowlander. Now, when I get through, I will find out the best watercolor. I will find out the best structure possibilities, productive structures. I will also find out whether I can fish it correctly. In other words, what I'm doing, I'm eliminating the majority of the lake for me to go fishing. I even eliminate the traffic. Okay? So if Jerry used to say, when I'd take her out, you know, Jerry, she wasn't she said, well, I don't go fishing. Why are you wasting all this time? I said, I'm not wasting any time. I'm halfway home. When I choose where I'm going to launch my boat, I'll eliminate most all of that water in this lake. So we'll get right with it. So now, today, she understands, and quite often led me in this selection and tell me what exists out there on the lake, so that when we launch our boat, this means to me that I've already found out that where the spots are where I must spend most of my time. Now that, in other words, I am located, probably in my estimation, the areas where I must spend my time at certain spots, fishing in the right manner, and if I do this, I'm going to get some fish. You've heard me say what is spoon plugging. Spoon plugging means if you and I are going to consistently catch them, we're going to have to know what makes the fish tick and what we have to do to put him on the stringer. If you and I also want to know how to consistently catch fish whenever and wherever we go, we must spend our time where we have the best chance to catch fish. That's spoon plugging. Now, another word in what spoon plugging is. If you and I want to consistently catch fish, regardless where we fish, whatever we fish and what we fish, what's the last one? Anybody tell me what the last thing you and I got to do? Yeah, that's good. He said, yep. We've got to be at the right place, at the right time, fishing in the right manner. Then I hope you get this. If we want to consistently catch fish, more bigger, more and bigger fish, we must be at the right place, at the right time, fishing in the right manner. Now that's what spoon plugging is. Now I hope that what I'm going to talk about tonight is going to remind you of the basic guideline. The basic guideline goes something like this, you got it. The deep water zone of the fish. This is an area where he spends the majority of his time. It's the only escape that he has from a hostile and often changing environment. He's a cold-blooded animal, and he's controlled by the weather and water conditions. He can't, when conditions are such that affect this fish from a hostile environment or a changing environment, he's cold-blooded. He's a little skittish. He can't be in a changing environment because you have to keep adjusting to it. And so in order for you and I to understand the basic guideline, we have to keep in mind that the deep water is the home of the fish. Now, if you ever forget this, and you listen says the home of a fish beside some stump on some lily pad, you're on the way out. That's the reason, many times, due to what you and I face in this present day age and what we have to listen to and look on the TV screen, we may forget this. We can't do that. The home of the fish is deep water. Now we take it from there. Normally when in this deep water, the fish is either so dormant or so deep, you and I, KNR, not on the KNR located, but it's just about impossible to catch. If this is true, you will say, how am I going to catch it consistently? Well, we're going to say it. We're saved due to the fact that this fish don't stay so deep or so dormant all the time. Once or twice on a normal fishing day, our average fishing day, the fish will become active and may move toward the shallows. See, it's so deep maybe, it's so dormant you can't do it. So we're saved due to the fact that it becomes active. It's no longer dormant. And may move toward the shallows. The whole situation changes. And on an average fishing day, this will occur once or twice. You have my guidelines as when this occurs. You're from the season's that far from. In the warmer weather, maybe more early in the morning, late in the afternoon. In the winter time, in the middle of the day. But that's just the guidelines. If you go early in the morning and you don't get the fish, don't leave the water between 10 and 2. See how you take care of the situation? So, we're saved again to the fact that when this fish starts moving toward the shallows, he just doesn't go any way. He doesn't say to his partner, hey fellas, today let's go this way. And the next day he says, that wasn't too good. Tomorrow let's go this way. Or that way, this way. He doesn't do that. He uses features of the lake bottom and as paths in his movements and migrations toward the shallows. Now, hopefully this is sinking in. How far he goes on this route is controlled by the weather and the water conditions at that particular time. Let me add a little ad-lib right here. Most of the time, the weather and water conditions stink so bad, he hardly ever gets to the shoreline. Hardly ever. So if he hardly ever gets there, you've got to be thinking, what am I going to do? Now, as he moves on this migration toward the shallows, he will pause or stop at what I call breaks, break lines and breaks or breaks on the bottom, on the structure. Now, listen, structure is a feature of the bottom that is different from the surrounding area. That is structure. You look on TV and you listen to some of these guys talking, and they say, oh, I fish structure all day. I fish stumps and rocks and trees and bushes and everything else. He fished everything else but structure. Structure is the bottom. Now, as this fish moves on structure, this feature of the bottom, which is different from the surrounding area, he will pause or stop on things on the bottom, which I call break lines. Now, and how far he goes, he'll stop at a break line before at a certain break line controlled by the weather and water conditions before he turns around and goes back downstairs. Now, what does that do for you and I? You look on the features, you recognize the structure situations, then you can look for the breaks or break line. A break line is a change in the bottom. It could be a stump, it could be a pile of rock, it could be a bush, but it has to be on the structure. As he moves on this structure, he may do this. He may run up to a little break line and stop. I always say this, when he stops, this group of fish, I say this, he cases the joint before he moves on. It could be that he's adjusting to a change in depth too. It could be that he's changing in a light condition. It takes him a little while to adjust to the light too. Then as the weather is right, the water color is right, he will move up to the next break. Sometimes these are close, but he's got the structure to follow, and he'll move to the next structure with break or break line, which you and I can recognize. So, as far as I'm concerned, this old fish is a sitting duck. Because I can see the same thing that he's seeing. In other words, what you got to do when you're thinking and your interpretation, you got to become a fish. You don't stand up yonder and look down this way on the interpretation of how that fish moves. You got to start down here at the deepest water in the area that you're fishing, and you case that joint. You're going to hear is your interpretation. Now, in the presentation of lures, you start up there and come here and see how far you can. Now, I'm into the, still in this basic guideline. Now, in consistent to catch fish on this structure, you and I control the depth and speed of our lures, live bait, anything, whatever you're using, on and around these features that the fish is using in their movements and migrations. I said, control your depth and speed. I did not say size, color, and your favorite twitch or wiggle. So the tools that you're going to use, you can use the size, color, and action as aids. But your main concern in buying your equipment, the presentation of lures, is to get that lure where that fish is. I think I have a sign of that. Lure out of position will catch no fish. And I see guys all the time whose lures are out of position. And where they're fishing and how they're fishing, they wouldn't catch a fish in 6 months. You see them fishing in shops. Now, you'll see the pros and so on fishing in shops. When a big fish gets on the move, you'll find the stinkers and yearlings going toward the shops. They know they're safe up there because when the bigger, the older fish, they're not compatible. The older fish are gobbling up like popcorn. And when these big fish get on the move, you're going to see these little fish up to a pound and a half, 14 inches, take off to the shops. Here they come. The little fish are head off. So when the bigger fish get up around 8 to 10 feet, they begin to say to themselves, whoa, back up. I'm getting too shallow. Now, if you're fishing the shoreline like a lot of people I see, and that's all you're doing, you're casting toward the shore, and then most likely the big fish are either under the boat or a little bit farther out. So if you have looked at my presentation lures, the question is asked, what do I do to become a good fisherman? The first thing I said is learn how to control the shallows, then I tell you how to control the deep water, then I tell you how to cast the shallows. Those are the steps, and then how to cast the deep water. Those are the steps. Now, in casting the shallows, most of the time you're fishing just a few feet of that. Now then I asked you this question, what do you and I call the shallows? The shallows is from 1 or 0 feet out 8 to 10 feet deep. How much, if you're casting shoreline, how much of that water are you covering? Well, it's covered pretty good. It's steep. But most of the time when it's steep, it's not a structural situation. So that means in covering that shallow on the cast, most of your casting is going to have to be out instead of toward. So we have a lot there. So we and I, consistently catch fish, must control the depth and speed of our lures and bait on and around these features that the fish use in their movements and migrations. I think basically that's what this thing said. So let's kind of keep that in mind as we look at this stuff.